Hey everybody, it's Mike. This is my third time trying to film this. I can't get my phone to film when I think it should. Anywho, I am doing the top 10 worst horror movie remakes. My opinion. Of course, my opinion will be a little different than others because I don't watch some of the movies that other people watch. That's cool. So you're not going to see any Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Night of the Living Dead or anything because even though I may have watched the first ones and I did like the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I may not have watched any of the remakes. So this is just my opinion on my little limited horror movie reviews. The first remake I'm going to talk about is the 2006 The Omen, starring Liev Schreiber. I do like him, and normally I like what he does, but I have to admit this movie was boring. So yeah, I didn't enjoy this one as much as I should have. We're just gonna leave it at that. Okay, hold on. Don't you love my graphics? It's because I don't know how to edit anything, so trying something different. Let's just roll with it. Kind of get a kick out of how old school I am. All right, number 9 was the remake of Cabin Fever that was in 2016. I didn't particularly love the first one, so I'm not quite sure why they made a second one. I didn't think it did that well to earn a remake, but apparently did. I'm not exactly sure who they put in charge of the remake because it basically looks like they let a bunch of kids film this. It's filmed horribly, the effects are horrible, the acting is horrible. At least in that first one, it was, they had some cool effects. That little lad girl was in it, and the kid from Boy Meets World. So yeah, pretty bad. All right, number 8 was the remake of Poltergeist. Once again, don't understand why they made this movie. It was in 2015 when it came out. But it was bad. It was a hard watch. I did not go to the theater and see it, but I did watch it on Netflix or whatever. And it took me a while to get through the whole thing. I just thought it was awful. Most of you will agree that the 2010 remake of Nightmare on Elm Street was not that great of a flick. I didn't completely hate it, but I'm not the biggest fan of this series anyway. So I did like the fact that Freddy wasn't like stand-up comedian in this one, so that was pretty good. But otherwise, it was just kind of a slow movie. I really didn't have any new scares or anything in it. Acting was Number 6 for me is a remake of The Hitcher. I loved the original one. It was so creepy. What's his name? Rutger Hauer was in it. He was scary, freaky, creepy, and there was this whole homoerotic kind of thing that went between him and the other male character, which added to the creepiness. This remake was completely opposite of that. It was just shallow and boring. Number 5 would be the 1998 remake of Psycho. I love Anne H., and I was so disappointed that this movie was so horrible. Why would you make a movie that is exactly like the original? I mean, shot for shot, nothing different. It didn't make any sense to me. And on top of that, put Vince Vaughn as the lead. Please. Now, the 3 and 4 could have been interchanged for me. Number 4, I put the 2008 release of Prom Night. Oh God. What can I say good about this movie? I did like the lead girl. Her last name is Snow. I can't think of her first name. But other than that, the characters were completely shallow. Unlike the original one where you kind of cared about, ended up feeling bad for who the killer was. There was, kind of a sense of loss and sadness in that whole first movie. This one was just, ugh. And then another Jamie Lee remake. They just need to leave Jamie Lee's movies alone. Is The Fog from 2005. I remember walking out of the theater after this one and thinking, please do not make another remake of a John Carpenter film, or a Jamie Lee Curtis film, I should say, and then they went and did the remake of Prom Night. But this one was horrible. I like the lead actor, the guy who was in Smallville, but this movie just made no sense at all. It was all over the place. It are these apparitions that are coming in from the sea to seek vengeance on what happened to them because of the townsfolk, like the original, or is this a ghost love story? It made no sense to me at all. I hated it. I was so angry. And I've tried to watch this movie a couple times, and I just can't get past it, because the original Fog is one of my favorite horror movies. And it should be no surprise to you that have listened to some of my other reviews. I absolutely despised Halloween remake, the 2007 Rob Zombie White Trash Fest. Part of my issue with this movie stems from the fact that I think Rob Zombie is despicable to women. And if you watch this movie and kind of pay attention, the male characters are basically nothing, and their deaths are like quick and immediate, but the women's deaths drag on forever. I was thinking of that Dee Wallace death in particular. Yeah, I hated this movie. I made it through it at the theater, but I have never watched the whole thing again. And it's kind of a shame, because I like the girl who plays Laurie. And then, of course, number one for me would be the remake of Halloween 2, the other Rob Zombie White Trash Fest. Once again, I don't know. Once again, it was awful what he put the female characters through. And granted, yes, he does squish a man's head, but that's pretty instant compared to what he did to Danielle Harris's character, which just went on and on and on. So, I'm not going to make this video go on and on and on, but yes, that is my number one most yuck remake of a horror movie. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll come see me again. We'll talk soon. Bye.